Hello, this is a homily for the third Sunday of Lent, and in the first two Sundays, plus Ash Wednesday, of course, we learned a lot about the existential crisis that man finds himself in terms of being involved all the time with sin and temptation, either his own sins, his own temptations, or the sins and temptations of other people around him who are affecting his life. So here today we start to see the beginnings of a solution. We begin to see the beginnings of how we can be helped out of this situation. Starting with the quote from Exodus, you know the story as well as I do in terms of Moses having the people demanding water from him because they're thirsty. This is not unreasonable. And him basically asking God what to do and then going and striking the rock. And this is the rock in Horeb. Strike the rock, the water will flow from it for the people to drink. Fine, that's as far as it goes in terms of supplying the water. They were thirsty, they needed water, but there is another layer to this because we're not just living here on our own, we're not just following our own trajectory like a ball in a pinball machine just bouncing off one wall or another or one of the actuators. We actually are involved in this world, but with God, under the oversight of God. Consequently, when they're complaining, people grumbled against Moses and whining all about, why did you make us leave Egypt, etc., etc., etc. Here you have God saying, look, I can fix this, and he does. But at the same time, there is this mention, this reminder that's going to come back again and again, that at Massah and Meribah, the Israelites quarreled there, and here's the punchline, and tested the Lord, saying, is the Lord in our midst or not? Now, if you remember back to the temptations, the Sunday when we read the temptations of Jesus by Satan, one of them was testing the Lord and basically putting God on the spot. This isn't the way God's relationship to us works. If we're just relating to idols, then we go into the temple where the idol is, we put an offering in front of the idol, and we basically tell the idol, look, this is what I want. And that's okay for talking to something that has no consciousness. But when we're talking personally to a personal God, there's a lot more involved in terms of respect, consideration for the other. Today we would call that decency. Our relationship with God is structured far more in terms of respect for who God is and what God does, just as God respects us and knows who we are and what we do. So, if you like, the interaction between Moses and God because of the complaining of the people, he is also teaching them that your relationship with God is far bigger than it would have been if you had been relating to a lump of wood or a lump of metal in one of the cities in Egypt. And of course there were lots of fake gods in Egypt. So here the issue is the test. Do we put God to the test, which means do we treat him just simply like a vending machine that we push the button, we get what we want? Or do we have this personal relationship to God? The psalm picks up that sense. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. hearing a voice means, first of all, he has a voice, and these fake gods don't have a voice. And secondly, that voice is going to reach right into my heart, provided, of course, I want it to, because God is not pushy. God is very gentle, very considerate, always. If we do that, then let us come into his presence with thanksgiving, and let us joyfully sing psalms to him, something they didn't do in the reading that we just heard. Now, of course, the psalm has a lot more, but it does mention the testing. They tested me, though they had seen my works. They'd already seen what God could do, and here they were still not trusting, which is another aspect of a real personal relationship, as opposed to me relating to a vending machine. In the second reading, Romans 5, you have Paul explaining, since we have been justified by faith, this is something that the Israelites did not have. They were already doubting God. You know, he's let us down. He really has brought us out of Egypt, where we were comfortable there. And now he's let us down. And here, Paul is saying, we have access by faith, and we boast in hope of the glory of God. Our faith, trust, confidence, all opens up for us the real world, which, because of our lack of faith and our meanness, closes our sense of the world down, so we can't see what the real relationship with God is. But again, at the bottom of the Romans text, God proves his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. What he's saying is that Christ, or God, has such a trust in us and such a love of us that he will send his Son to die. There is him showing the fullness of his relationship to us. Now, lastly, we have this long gospel from John chapter 4, and you again know the story. This is the woman from Samaria. Jesus asks her for a drink, and already there we're picking up the metaphor of the water and the fact that now God is testing her in the person of Jesus. Could you give me a drink of water? Now, this goes against all the relationships between Jewish and Samaritans. Jesus then, as is common in John's Gospel, takes it a level deeper. If you knew who was speaking to you, he would have given you living water. So not just this chemically verifiable water, but in fact the water of life. Whoever drinks the water I shall give will never thirst. And I hope you can hear behind these words the fact that Jesus is now the new Moses. He is the one who is allowing this water to be given to his people, and he is taking this to a whole new level, which is why he is the new Moses. Then he has a back and forth with this lady about her husbands, basically to show how much he understands about her. This impresses her so much that she says, I can see that you are a prophet. What Jesus then goes on to say is the Father seeks people to worship him. And literally the Father is seeking these people through me, through Jesus Christ. And so what you have is Jesus laying out for her what the meaning of the coming of the Christ is going to be. And of course, as the last part, you have the Samaritans coming to Jesus, even though he's a Jew, and saying, once they've talked to him, excuse me, once they've talked to him, we can see that you are the Christ. And so Jesus has achieved the beginning of his giving the living water to them, because now they have faith in him, and that gives the whole possibility of new life. And that's where we needed to be brought, from the whining of the Israelites about missing the chemical called water, all the way up through what Christ is bringing us. And the little question in the back there, are we whining? Are we not trusting God is doing what he said he's going to do? Have a good day.